Hello everyone, Amber from Sustainable Jungle, where we share sustainability tips, tricks, hacks, products, brands, and stories to better our planet. And speaking of stories, what do we do when our favorite stories go from creative to clutter? We're talking about that old textbook lying around from your college days, a childhood favorite you've been clinging on to, or worse, the novel you swore you'd get to one day. We get it. Books are hard to let go of, and yet 320 million of them are sent to landfill each year. Now think of all the wasted paper and trees that equates to. According to the University of Michigan, just one tree grown for paper production generates about 8,000 sheets of paper, and considering the average textbook is 700 pages, that amounts to nearly 30 million trees raised annually. And while the rapid growth and popularity of ebooks and audiobooks has somewhat displaced the number of physical books being printed in recent years, we also know that the sustainable technology industry is seriously lagging behind, and it's host to its own environmental and ethical concerns. So that means it's up to us to ensure that the next chapter in the lives of our pre-loved paperbacks is a good one. And we're here to help with 6 tips. First off, you can sell them. I mean, who could say no to a little extra spending money? Just spend on more books, of course. Selling old books is easier now than ever, and you can either choose to list them yourself on sites like eBay and Amazon, or go with a book-specific service like Bookscouter, where all you have to do is type in the ISBN for a list of pricing options from a variety of book buyback sites. And then you can mail in every book that you'll accept and get paid. They also have an app which makes it super easy, where all you have to do is just scan the barcode. Bookscouter is nice because they'll buy back books of all genres, whereas more specific sites like Chegg specialize in buying, as well as selling used and renting out textbooks, though keep that in mind if you are looking for any academic books, because it's a great way to save a little bit of money and waste. Now offline, you can consider selling used books at garage sales or to local independent used bookstores, but be sure to contact the stores ahead of time to find out what they accept and what payment they offer, because a lot of them will only do store credit in exchange. But here's the thing, there are so many books in the world that you're probably not going to find a buyer for each and every one. But that doesn't necessarily mean the books themselves are unwanted. So one of the best options for how to get rid of old books is to pass along that joy of reading to someone else via a local thrift store or charity shop. Libraries, schools, daycare centers, and after-school programs likewise often accept old books, especially if they're children's books. Just be sure to call ahead and make sure your donation is actually needed. Now, if you've exhausted all of your local reading recycling options, there are tons of online organizations that will put your books in the hands of someone who wants or needs them, like Prison Book Program, Libraries Without Borders, and Second Bind. And we'll be sure to link to some of these in the description below to give you some ideas. Tip number 3, you can trade in old books for some new to you reading. After all, the best reason to get rid of old books is to make room for new ones. And book swaps are the best way to do so sustainably, ensuring that you pass along your old books while in turn acquiring old books from someone else instead of having to buy them new. Our favorite book swaps are little free libraries. You've probably noticed these popping up all over the place. I personally live in a town of just 7,000 people, and there's at least 5 that I can think of off the top of my head, and those are just the ones that I know of. Now, if you're not familiar with how little free libraries work, it's a network of 100,000 plus book sharing boxes scattered around neighborhoods and front yards around the world. Unlike a traditional library, there's no ledger or checkout process. Instead, each one operates on an honor system, so anyone can take a book, share a book, or both. Now, the cool thing is that sharing a book is not required in order to take one, but you can simply come back to that neighborhood location when you do have a book to share. Again, we'll link to a map where you can look up some of these near you, but keep in mind that there are a lot of little free libraries that are popping up that aren't even registered with the actual organization. They're just passion projects by people sharing the joy of reading in their front yard. So if the map isn't turning up anything, take a wander through your neighborhood and see what you find. Alternatively, you can join a book swap or host your own. So if you want to join one, you can go virtual and global through a project like Paperback Swap and Book Crossing, which is a really cool site that allows you to track your donated books on its physical journey from reader to reader, or you can just keep it classic and organize one among your friends and folks in your local community. And because, just like books, there's just kind of something about holding a real one, don't you think? Now, book swaps aren't just an opportunity to be sustainable, but to have fun and let your imagination run wild. Go all out with a literature-themed invitation, snacks, decorations, and party games. You could even put a twist on it too, and ask each guest to bring a mystery book of their choice to give away white elephant style. And no one will know what book they've chosen until the end of the party. Number 4. Now, keeping books in their original form is one way to keep the story going, but rewriting the story and upcycling them into something totally new is also an option, and we really encourage you to look into it. Old book pages are useful for endless arts and crafts projects. You can use them as zero-waste gift wrapping for smaller gifts, decoupage pages together, or use paper mache to dress up an old piece of furniture. You can use them as a drawing canvas, fold them into paper flowers or origami stars. And we'll actually link to one of our favorite tutorials for that last one in the description below as well, because they make excellent Christmas tree decorations that don't involve any waste. You can even upcycle whole books by hollowing out the center pages to make a neat little stash for keepsakes and valuables. At tip number 5, we have composting old books. Now, if your old books are completely unusable or damaged beyond repair or reuse, compost them, or at least pages of them. In fact, as a carbon-rich material, paper is extremely beneficial to any outdoor or indoor compost bin. Paper also absorbs extra moisture, and crumpled pages increase the necessary aeration in the composting process, which makes it all a little bit faster and more efficient. But first, you want to be sure to remove any non-compostable parts that are not paper or cardboard. That includes any glossy or metallic or plastic-coated covers, hardcover jackets, plastic and metal spines from spiral-bound notebooks, and built-in bookmarks. And to play it safe, stick with just pages printed with black ink. So no glossy textbook pages on this one. And be sure to shred them up into tiny pieces to speed the process along. If you toss in the whole crumpled sheet, it won't break down as quickly as your compost screens. And last, at number 6, we have recycling. Now, if you remember your 5 R's of zero waste, you will know that recycling is last because it is always the last resort, but it is still a really viable option, especially when books are concerned. Most places actually allow you to recycle books with your regular paper recycling, and some will even allow you to toss in a whole paperback book. But because not all places do, we recommend treating any book as if you're trying to recycle a hardcover. In other words, you're going to remove all of the pages from the cover and binding, which is often made of non-recyclable and non-paper elements like adhesive, string, and cloth. Now remember that book disposal guidelines are going to vary by location, so make sure you check your local policies before recycling. Striving toward more sustainable living encourages us to consume things more thoughtfully and be aware of the impact those things have on the planet, even things as seemingly small and benign as books. By recycling, donating, or repurposing old and unwanted books, we can keep them out of landfills for as long as possible, while also clearing some space on our bookshelves for the latest books on sustainability. So now over to you. What is your favorite way to deal with old books you've read, or just know that you're never going to read? Drop us a note in the comments, and before you go sorting through your bookshelf, be sure to give this video a like and a subscribe to stay in the loop on all things literary, low impact, and so much more. As always, I'm Amber from Sustainable Jungle, closing the book on this particular video, but don't worry, our journey into sustainable living is always to be continued.